Welcome to the Beatport podcast. I'm your host Tigerlight, and for today's episode we welcome Riva Starr, an artist whose sound for over a decade has held a steady place in the charts and on stages at festivals and clubs around the world. Touring up to 200 times a year, hardly sleeping and ever evolving under various popular artist aliases that have all garnered him number ones. From techno to disco, breakbeat to acid, house and big bass lines, this artist refuses to stand still. Beatport podcast. I'm super excited to get to chat to you about your new album, much awaited, and your forthcoming tour this autumn. But before we get to talking about that, I wanted to take you back 10 years to the beginning of your move to the UK in 2008. What was the inspiration for moving at that time, and how much has the last 10 years of living in the city influenced your music?
Okay, so in reality, I moved to London May 2007. I really remember that date because I was playing in Georgia, my last gig as Maddox. So I was basically living from Napoli to Georgia, playing my last gig as Maddox, and then from there all the way to London with all the luggages and stuff. So it was really my turning point from my breakbeat project that was Maddox and the start of the new career as Riva Starr. And since then, I did something like 70 remixes in 2 years and a number of after parties in small pubs and stuff. Even though with Maddox I was playing Fabric, I was touring Japan and stuff, I decided to start from scratch and learn. Because sometimes, because I was coming from breakbeat, it's not always easy to find a new sound within house music. That's also why my early productions as Riva Starr were pretty much electro tinged, and there were some breaks influences and some drum and bass as well. So that's why Dirty Bird and Front Room, the early Jesse Rose label, were picking up my stuff because they were a bit more crossover in that sense. But in any case, I decided to move to London because London has always been my reference as a sound in terms of everything coming from the bass and the crossover attitude. So I was going to London to buy records since I was living in Napoli and doing my 10 hours set residencies on the Saturday in this club, in this very underground club in the center of Napoli called Velvet Zone.
10 hours?
10 hours, yeah. Oh. I was, from start to finish. And sometimes we were doing the after party once we just shut the doors after the 10 hours, at 8 in the morning. We were just going through, till the afternoon, shutting the doors and, 50 people in and having fun.
And it was just you?
Yeah, it was just me. Maybe the after party, some friends were joining me from other clubs, after they finished, or it was an open DJ booth, so we were just having fun at the after party. But yeah, the actual club I was playing by myself, and I was doing 10 hours of pure breakbeat. So some English tourists coming just by chance to the club. They couldn't believe that they were listening to stuff that was usually available mostly in London, because it was the early kind of new school breaks, post big beat kind of sound. So, and I was totally fond of it. So that's why I started the project and everything. Well, once I moved to London, I just embraced the Riva Starr sound, and I had the chance to meet so many people from the industry and so many legends. I became friends with people like DJ Zinc, for instance, or I met Boy George on the street. He was living right behind my flat, so we were just swapping tunes. It was just a different level of integration with the scene, and the inputs were just on the next level.
Do you still feel like the city inspires you in the same way as it did in the early days?
Yeah, 100%. The only problem is that nowadays I have less time to go around, check new bands or new DJs and stuff, because most of the weekends I'm on the road, and when I'm not on the road I try and spend time with family and friends, or we just fly for a holiday. And then midweek, when I have some spare time, I just need to make music in the studio. So there's less time available, but it's still a city that really inspires me to the core, and where I can get some nice sources of freshness in terms of music and stuff.
I was raised by robots. If I seem cold and uncaring, unable to cry, I was raised by robots. That's the reason why.
you've been listening to is Robots by Riva Starr and Green Velvet. I read that you studied Chinese literature at university level, which sounds like an intensely hard degree, and I was wondering why you chose the subject and why you didn't choose music.
Because I've always had this like less theoretical, less a bit more like spontaneous approach to music. I never wanted to learn an instrument as well. I never wanted to go to a proper school to learn how to DJ and stuff, because I think I was just afraid to lose the spontaneity in what I do. And I strongly believe that if you have some passion and you manage to get your own take, to have your own take on the music, on the productions, on the DJing, without following the rules that someone else wants to teach you, that's a plus value. It's definitely better. So I've always had this thing where I wanted to have my own way of doing those things. So that's why it took me even like longer to actually get into the circuit, because I didn't have enough money, so I had to earn my money to buy the equipment and then find my own way of understanding how things work and stuff. But I find that that's much more solid compared to someone that just goes to the school and follow the rules, if you know what I mean. And Chinese, I was just seriously in love with the culture, and then I decided that I wanted to take the degree. It was actually literature and language. So yeah, it's been pretty intense, but it was fun.
And have you used it since you left?
Yeah, just when I went there to play for a couple of weeks. No, I think that the thing was that it's not like English, that you can just listen to a few songs, watch some movies and stuff, and you kind of have like an average knowledge. The thing with Chinese is that I had to go there for like a couple of years, do some stages and work for some firms and stuff. And I've been there several times. I really like China, but it's definitely not a place where I would just love to live. And also that the music scene at the time was super commercial, and I wasn't enjoying too much staying there. I didn't want to sacrifice, my music career that was actually slightly taking off at the time. So I was like, that's fine. I got my degree. I won my challenge. But now I just want to focus on music. So basically, after the degree, I just, totally quit with everything that was, Chinese or that kind of side. And I just, dived into music.
Was your Chinese good enough to be able to grab the mic while you were playing out and shout out in Chinese?
Yeah, but only when I was drunk, actually. And I was drunk quite often at the time. And yeah, but very silly, stupid thing. Like, hi, everybody, my name is Maddox or Riva Starr, because I played with both projects. And I love you, and you're nice. Stupid things, really.
You've got a really interesting, eclectic cultural background to pull from creatively as an artist. And you mentioned Maddox, and you've worked under several other successful aliases: Soul Speech, forays with the Dirty Bird crew as Genghis Khan, which is a great name, by the way.
Thanks.
And I was wondering, from a creative point of view, how do you dedicate specific times for writing for these different aliases? And how do you separate out your creative mind to focus on each one?
I don't really think about the projects when I make music. I just make music freely. And then, at the beginning, my main mistake was to release everything under Riva Starr, even the more crossover stuff, just for fun, for passion, whatever. And then it's been proved that, it doesn't work, because people get confused. Some of them are just very superficial when they listen to stuff. They don't have the time to actually go deeper into why some stuff has happened or some music has been put out and stuff, which is understandable. Everyone is busy. So I just, grew up with more experience about this, and I decided to do several projects and kind of define the sound of each project, because I'm very versatile. I love all the music, and I love to produce different stuff in the studio, because that reflects my way of DJing as well. But I understand that it doesn't work in terms of like branding and from the production point of view. So I just decided to actually separate the different projects and give a specific sound. So sometimes I just go to the studio and I come up with a bass track, and then that goes into the Genghis Clan folder. Sometimes I just want to do a more like classic housey kind of track, and that goes to the soul speech, or I might even put out some other aliases, like for some. I even did like a pop track under another name called Santa Maradona Football Club. That was quite strong in Germany, I think, but even in UK, it went quite well. No major hits, but again, it was a different thing. I just like to make a lot of music, even when I travel. That just relaxes me a lot. And I needed to actually develop the sound and move forward even as a DJ. So it's just very natural. If I start thinking about it, nothing comes out. I just want to have a very relaxed workflow, free from any kind of rule or expectation, and I just go with the flow.
This is MDMA, released at the start of September via Exploited Ghetto by Matt Dodjo. Fitting with your changing musical faces, you're a label head to not one but three imprints: Snatch, Snatch Off and Brock Wild. Is the concept with the labels the same there then as with your artist aliases, to keep the genres separate?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Because I wanted, with Brock Wild, I just want to be able to be more crossover if I want, without any restrictions. Sometimes DJs can be very snob. So I decided to separate the two, and then even within Snatch, I wanted to do like an outlet to do like slightly more stripped out, techier, and more like slightly more experimental. I wouldn't say experimental because we are not an experimental label, but something different from Snatch, where I can actually play more with vocals, music, and and everything in between. So yeah, I'll probably gonna be starting another label as well if I have enough time. I just like it, and I have a very solid crew that work hard to have everything all the bolts rolling perfectly.
Yeah, I was wondering about that when I was looking into everything that you do, running 3 labels, and your tour schedule is full on. How do you manage the admin side of things? Then I saw on the Snatch SoundCloud that you've got a nice list of crew members for the imprint. How involved are you in the daily running of the label, or do you just go in for creative brainstorming sessions once a week? How does that workflow work?
I have like 6 or 7 people I'm working with. So one of them is also my manager. He's been my longtime friend. After several experiences, we decided to do everything in between friends, and it's working perfectly. Who is actually also my label manager, Mickey. And then I have someone that is downloading me demos and as much promos as possible, because being on the road, sometimes also the internet is crap, and there's not enough time. Everything gets synced on my Dropbox, and then I listen to each and every demo, each and every promo, and I choose the tracks, and I decide the EPs. We schedule together every couple of weeks with the other guys, and then I leave them to decide about the promotion, the socials and stuff, even though we have like once every few months brainstorming about the strategy. We did a big rebranding of both Riva and Snatch. That has been working a lot. We've been using yellow stripes on my eyes and this kind of irreverent kind of graphic for Snatch, and people love it. And if I just send you 1/3 of the people that are copying me and the Snatch brand, you will go crazy. I mean, it's just mental. So that means that rebranding was really helpful in order to actually make ourselves more recognizable, not just in terms of sound, but also in terms of image, which is very important nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. Do you take it as a compliment that people are copying you, or is it annoying? How do you feel about it?
No, that's fine. I don't mind. It's just flattering. That they really like it, and for me, I think we're moving towards the right direction. Also, when some people just copy my sound, it doesn't matter, because once I finish that kind of track, I'm probably moving somewhere else, which is again different from the previous. So I don't really like to repeat myself too much. And I strongly believe even like giving away some tricks in the studio and stuff. Some people say you're crazy. Why you would give this away? Like it's your personal tricks in the studio. And I'm like, one first thing is that I would have paid to have someone that would have given me like some real kind of tricks in the studio when I was a kid. That would have, saved me a lot of time. Second, it's not just about technically how good you are in the studio, but it's all about your creativity, your ideas, and everything in between. So no one can ever be similar to another one, even if they have all the studio secrets, if you know what I mean, and all the studio sounds. Even like having the same samples or the same synth and knowing the same tricks will lead to some different productions. So that doesn't, bother me to actually give away tricks or, explain how I make stuff in the studio, because it's all down to your creativity as well. Every mind is different, thanks God.
It's great how involved you are in all your labels. Like when you're travelling around and listening to demos, I bet you come across some that you think, this is really good, but. So do you then, at that point, have the time and energy to write feedback and say, I'm turning this down, but if you just do this, this and this, then we might consider it again? Or do you just have to turn stuff down? How do you deal with that?
No, I go even deeper. I just do the way the old school A&Ring used to be. So I try and give some feedback about edits and stuff. Some people agree and try and make the effort to modify the edit, maybe improve the mix down or change some sounds. Some others just say fuck off and they leave. So I strongly believe that that's part of the A&R of, you know, having a label. It's my responsibility to actually be able to give them the maximum support from myself, from ourselves, and from the people, from the fan of the label. So I exactly know what the fan like about our sound, and if the producers decide to send us music, it's because maybe they like what we are doing, they like what I am doing, and maybe they trust me a bit. So I always try and give them some feedback. And you know, recently it's been happening a lot, and even like bigger names, they were super nice, and we had like the best experience in swapping ideas, and we came up with the best product, and that made my day and their day. And at the end of the day, you know, it's also this, you know, within a label, you know, to be able to actually improve the tracks, the music, the releases, everything, the promotion to the max level, so that everyone can get the max out of it, you know, because even making an EP, it's a big effort. It's only for the amount of time you spend making music, you know, that's the most precious thing you have, the time, you know, because it doesn't get back once you spent it. So we need to make the most of it all the time.
Yeah, I was actually wondering that. You have such heavyweights on the label like Kink and Fatboy Slim. So I was thinking when you were saying that about giving feedback, whether that applied to people like them. And it's great to hear that people on that level are still happy to exchange creative ideas with you and not be divas.
Well, with people like Kink, you know, it's always 100% good right away, so there's no problem. But, you know, sometimes, no diva. Sometimes we had some like weird relationship with some people trying to do too much the diva thing, and we don't like that, so we just scrap. We finish what we're doing, and then that's it. Okay, everyone just goes his own way. We like to be on the same level with everyone, and you know, and try and build that constructive, you know, kind of relationship, rather than just, hey, it's me, whatever I am. You know, doesn't work like that.
So for producers that are listening and thinking, okay, wow, this is the kind of label ethos I want to make my musical home, what would you say to them if they're thinking of sending their demos in? What are key points you look for in records that you sign and put out?
That's not exactly a rule, you know, apart from the sound. Of course, I wouldn't sign like a EDM track or whatever, you know. It has to sound good, needs to be original, have some good ideas, and you know, like the label is run by a human being. People that produce music are human being, and we go through phases. Even as DJ, you know, sometimes I play some stuff, you know, in 2 months I'm going to be playing some other stuff, and then in 2 more months I'm going to go back to the previous stuff. So it's you know, all about feelings. And so sometimes maybe a demo sent in January, I would turn it down, and maybe 6 months later I would love it. There's not a rule, you know, really. The only suggestion I can give is just to try and be original. Don't follow what we've been doing in the past, because we are always evolving, and just, you know, send 3 or 4 of your best tracks, of the tracks you like the most, and that's it, you know. And then if it doesn't work for that particular label, it will work for another label if it's a good track. So you know, even if it doesn't work for Snatch, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not good. It's just that it doesn't fit that particular in that particular time frame, that sound, or maybe I don't know, for whatever reason.
I'm wondering if someone is listening to the podcast who sent you something in January or February and is now thinking, damn, I was probably just in a bad mood. You're going to get an influx of old demos now with a message like, hope you're feeling better, smiley emoji.
Oh, you never know. You never know. Like, even like maybe tracks from 2 years ago, they could be super good right now. You know, sometimes, you know, even it happened to me a lot of times that I was sending tracks and maybe they were or two ahead or two behind what they were doing, you know, and whatever. So there's not a rule. As long as you just make the best possible track and you send it to the A-list label that you like, and then you know whatever happens, at least you've done your best.
You're listening to Always by Riva Starr featuring Jocelyn Brown. got your fourth artist album coming out on October 26th on Adam Beyer's Truesoul imprint. It's called Curveballs, and it features a collaboration with the legendary vocalist Jocelyn Brown. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, the track, the vocals were ready. And were already done and released a while back on a different pop project. So what happened is that I actually managed to get those vocals, put my hands on those vocals, because she's not doing that many collaborations anymore. And I just twisted some part of the track, and I put my take on it on the beat, and we decided to actually put it out as a new track. So in reality, we never actually were in the studio together, but we actually did it this way. So, but it's been nice anyway to work on those vocals, because her voice is amazing, and in reality, it's a bit like they are unreleased because they've never been used much.
The album dances around genres with a definite hat tip to the old school. It's got elements of house, disco, funk, techno and beyond, and all the tracks still feel like they fit together. They feel like they're at home next to each other. Did you have specific genres in mind that you wanted to showcase within the album whilst writing it, or did you just let each track lead you where it wanted to go as you were writing it?
A bit of both. That's why the title of the album is Curveballs, because I quite like that concept, both in the studio and in the club. So I don't like, as I told you, to stuck to one sound. Even when I DJ, I don't like to be monotone about, okay, I'm a tech house DJ, I just play tech house with that kind of style, that kind of edits and that kind of, ideas or whatever. I like to go left and right and try and surprise people and surprise myself first. Otherwise I get bored. Same in the studio. I just like to start with some ideas and then experiment with sound and, fish from my experience hat when I was doing breakbeats. Even before that, I was playing drum and bass as a DJ. I was producing and playing hip hop even before. So, I went through several phases, and some of them, even in the sounds I choose, even for the house tracks, you can actually feel that. So I always try and be as open as possible, and obviously try and have a concept within the album. So album is a journey between breaks, house and techno, and everything in between. So even tech house for me, which is like a mixture of house and techno, is in there, but I wouldn't say it's a tech house album. It's an album that explores all the styles, the sounds that I could actually be able to play in the club. And the idea was to actually showcase some sort of like Riva DJ set in the club. So I could go from dark techno-y stuff to like more disco-y loopy stuff to breakbeat or some pure analog music. For instance, Fresh. I did Fresh in the studio with my friend Sharoods in Los Angeles. He's got a studio with everything analog you could think of has been ever invented or released in terms of keyboards and drum machines and stuff. We didn't even use the computer. We just did everything with the machines, recorded like half an hour session, and then I went back to the studio and edited everything. So there's no rule in the album. I've done music on different styles with different technique, and I did something like 25 tracks, to be honest, in reality, and I choose the one that could stick well together, and that's the result.
How long did the whole writing process take for the album?
Not much, really. I did it probably, if I have to think about it, probably 2 months and a half.
And was that faster than your previous albums, like Definition of Sound, for example?
No, Definition of Sound was quite fast as well. I spent a lot of time with my second album because I just wanted to play with more indie electronic stuff. So I had a lot of musicians, and it took me almost 2 years. So after that experience, which was nice on one side and really bad on another side, because obviously I was like, in a very naive way, pretending to do like an indie electronic album and release it and give it to people that knew me as a house producer, and they were like, what the fuck is this thing, like, okay, maybe I even like the tracks, but this is not your sound. And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna do remixes and stuff. Yeah, but that doesn't matter, it's the original is that sounding. So at the end, I had to do it. I would have to do it with a different name. That would have been better. But it was just an experience. So I decided that I never wanted to spend more than 3 months on an album anymore. And that's my actually kind of time limit when I do an album. Also because I'm very fast in the studio, and if it takes longer, it means that something is not working, Even when I do a track, if it takes more than a few days, it means that something is not working, and I just move on to another track.
The track ride features the TR-909 heavily. What other essential bits of studio gear did you use whilst making this record?
I have my OB6 synth that I bought recently, and I did a lot of synths with that one. Like Give Me Love, the synth is the OB6, and a few others as well. I have my SH101, the Roland, and I do a lot of the bass sounds and some effects with it. And then I use my desk, which is an analog summing mixer, Class A, which is, the sound is just amazing, and it's called ADT Audio. So basically, they are the old engineers of Telefunken, and they opened this new company called ADT, and they just make amazing summing units. They are basically like a mixer, a proper mixing console without the faders. And that really helps me a lot. And then, a lot of other beats that I use here and there, not necessarily all the time, like the distressor or the SSL compressor for some grooves, maybe Roland JVU 2080 for some strings and pianos, but mostly all the time, definitely the OB6, SH101 and my desk.
Beatport podcast. How much do you work with samples while you're producing?
I always try and choose the best samples when I don't do the drum sounds with the drum machines, because I also use Jomox X-Bass 999 for some drum sounds, and I always try and choose the best samples, because I don't like to be too invasive with the plugins. So I use very, very little plugins. I try and keep the sounds as original as possible, and just choose the right sounds. And also I also tried to do something like, putting as little sounds as possible, like not adding an extra stupid amount of layers to the grooves and and everything, effects and stuff. The more I could just take out from the actual tracks, the better.
What about the Truesoul family and Adam Beyer? How involved were they in the album process?
Well, they've been involved since the beginning, because we did a couple of singles that went down really well on Truesoul. And again, I did like some stuff on Drumcode under different name. So I just told them, I want to do an album. I need to do an album at least every couple of years, because I need to define my sound with myself first, and then with the people listening to my music. And also I think that making an album is different than making singles. You've got much more opportunity to explain the project, because you can actually promote an album, and the press wouldn't take much attention to singles, rather than whether if there's an album, there's much more to talk about, and there's much more stories behind it, right? So with Truesoul, I was just sending the demos to Adam Ollie, who runs the label, and I would get him feedbacks, and we were just going through the track list, making a plan on how to promote the album, working on the artworks and stuff, and deciding everything in between. So it's been a very collaborative work.
How did you first meet him, and how did that alliance come about?
Can't remember exactly. I think I met him a few times. Also, because he was releasing stuff from one of our artists. Because we have a small management company as well within Snatch to try and help our in-house producers. And we were in touch because we pretty much know anyone in the scene. We've been around for a while, and I just sent him some tracks, and he loved them. So we did a release, and it went top 10 techno as Riva Starr. The track was called Resilience. Then I did another EP with Tiger Stripes called The Sound of the Baddest. That was pretty strong as well. So we built our relationship over the releases, and there's a mutual trust about what we can do together, and I think that works pretty well. And he's very responsive. He works pretty hard, so I really like his style. He's a very nice person, and we work well together, and I think this is essential if you want to do a good work.
been listening to Give Me Love by Riva Starr from his forthcoming album, Curveballs. You've mentioned some huge dates that you've got coming up. Elro in Chile, you're playing in Peru, you're going to Sheffield and then jumping over to Poznan in Poland. How do you manage to keep energized and healthy while you're on tour? What are your tips and tricks?
Well, not being kids around, so no early wake up in the morning, that helps, I guess. If I have some days off, I just spend some days sleeping. But no, jokes apart, it's I just try and keep like a weekend off every 4 to 5 weeks, if not every month, because I think that really helps me. I've been traveling so much back in the days, not resting at all. Like for a few years, I was doing something like 200 gigs a year, and I was honestly just destroying myself. So was making crap music because I wasn't very focused in the studio, and I was like, that's not the kind of career I want to pursue. And I'm a producer as well, and I built my family as well. So things have changed over the year. So I've learned how to manage my time and my bookings better. So I really stopped for a minute. For instance, I took 2 weekends off, 10 days off in August to spend some time with the family, because my kids were saying, Dad, you always come and go, but you never have a proper holiday with us in the summer. I was like, yeah, you're right. So I just stopped for 2 weeks, which is crazy in the middle of August. That would drive every agent mad, because it's the months where you actually have much more requests and stuff. But luckily enough, all the crew and the agents, they really understand it, and I'm always for the long-term kind of relationship and solidity in what you do, and I think it's better to do a bit less but more solidly for a longer period of time, rather than just overkill it and kill yourself with heavy touring and stuff, and then not being able even like to say hi to a friend because you don't remember how to talk anymore. You know what I mean?
What essentials do you take with you in your tour bag?
Essential, I always take with me dry nuts, almonds, and dry fruit. That really helps me not to eat crisps and rubbish when I'm starving and there's nothing better to eat, aka in the hotel rooms. So I don't like to eat on the plane, no matter what class you're flying. I don't really like, I really don't. So I always try and eat at the airport, if there's a decent restaurant, or if there's any access to the lounge. Those little things really help.
Okay, the last question for today is, what is the most diva thing on your rider that you request for when you get in the club?
The most diva thing is actually having alcohol, because I don't drink much alcohol at all. But I always ask for the alcohol, because if I have friends, I like for them to have fun and have a few drinks behind the DJ booth. So sometimes when I say no, I just want water, and they look at me like I'm a crazy bastard or something. It's like, why the hell you ask for all this alcohol when you just want water and stuff? So that's the most diva thing I could think of.
Beatport Podcast. You've been listening to Blue by Lenny Kisser out on Trippy Ass Technologies. Beatport Podcast. last track today is Disco Loco by Riva Starr. You've been listening to the Beatport podcast with Riva Starr. I've been your host Tigerlight. Thanks for listening. Beatport podcast.